Welcome to a new episode of the Straight Wrestling Voices of the Indies podcast. I'm your host Morbo, and with me, as always, everyone's favorite US independent wrestling fan, Sebastian.
Thank you as always, Morbo, for the great introduction, and welcome everyone to this week's episode of Straight Wrestling Voices of the Indies. And for the first time in the history of Voices of the Indies, we have a ring announcer as our guest today, because our guest today is a ring announcer and, in my opinion, the voice of TWE. And therefore, thank you for taking the time and welcome, Daniel Simmons.
Oh, man, thank you guys so much for having me. It's an honor to be here. It's so cool to be on a podcast, and better yet, a wrestling podcast. So I appreciate the opportunity.
So, Daniel, for the people who don't know who you are, who is Daniel Simmons?
Well, Daniel Simmons, myself, I'm a 21-year-old ring announcer. First ever ring announcer for TWE Chattanooga. A lot of listeners, sure by now you've heard of it because I've listened to previous guests as far as Jameson Shook and Gina Monty, and those guys are just the guys and gals. I mean, Gina and Jameson are just amazing and exceptional people. So I first ring announced for TWE Chattanooga, and the first time I ever ring announced, I was about 17, and went away for a few years, but I came back in January of last year, and I ring announced the first show of 2023 in January. So I pretty much just a ring announcer. I like to meet new people, and I'm just here for the ride. Very excited to see the indies as a whole, and see just professional wrestling what it is right now. It's awesome. I'm glad to be just a small part of it. That's pretty much the role I play.
How did you get into wrestling as a fan, and also what fascinates you about wrestling?
It's going to be crazy because I was born in 2002, and so much like people from that were born in that kind of stage right there, we got a late start to wrestling as far as the stuff that was going on, in the early 2000s, because whenever I was, I guess, probably 3 or 4, maybe I'd seen my first, wrestling tape or wrestling, movie DVD that was they were coming out from the home videos and stuff. It was the WWE home video. The whole thing that they did was just awesome with DVDs, because that's how me and my brother we would have to order DVDs from previous pay-per-views. And so, I say probably around 2005, 2006, I really started to understand, the aspect of your everyday, wrestling show. It really hit me as a kid. I was like, man, these are my superheroes. Like whenever I was a kid, I didn't get into Marvel and DC and all that. I got into wrestling, and I love to watch it. The first match I ever really remember seeing, and the match that really got me into professional wrestling as a fan, was Mick Foley versus Edge, WrestleMania 22 in 2006. And man, I tell you, that match right there, that, even though it was a hardcore match, even though it was I guess you'd say a stipulation match, I fell in love with those guys and their wrestling, and just the story that it told, even at a young age. And it's crazy. I don't mean to go off on a tangent here, but just as pro wrestling, you can look at one little sliver of it and be hooked just because a story is being told. And that is what hooked me with Edge and Mick Foley for WrestleMania 22. So that was really my introduction to the whole wrestling scene. And even even if I was watching it on a TV screen from a DVD, I instantly was hooked, because my brother was he's a lot older than I am, about 6 years older actually. And he really drove that nail for wrestling for me. And what fascinates me about wrestling is, like I said, the story. The stories that can be told between two competitors whether male or female, you can't deny it. And I equate that with anything. I equate that with anything in life. You can always draw something from a story, and that's really what fascinates me about wrestling is the ability that the sport itself, like no other, can tell a story and draw interactions.
As our first guest, who is a ring announcer, I would like to know, did you always wanted to become a ring announcer? And is there some kind of training that you did before becoming a ring announcer?
So, yes and no. There was training, but there really wasn't any training because I have a story. Um, I'm sure you know this person, and I'm sure the viewers are going to know this person. Jaden Newman is actually the owner of TWE, the head trainer as well. And man, me and that guy, we're like brothers. He's like my brother. I've never publicly really talked about this on a platform. But man, that guy's like my brother, and known him for about 8 or 9 years now, and he really helped me become what I am. And I'll always be grateful to him for that. Really, what happened was I was like probably 16, and of course I'd already been coming to TWE since I was about 13 or 14, and so I could be wrong on those ages. But I just remember going there for the first time, and then slowly, by the time I got to about the age of 16, I really started chatting with him and talking with him, and we became really close friends. And it actually started out that I was his manager for one night only, maybe one or two nights, but I remember vividly one night, the first time I got to be his manager at a little show in McDonald, Tennessee, near Cleveland, and it's not running anymore, but they are using some other show is using the building now. C1W is using the building, and that was really my introduction in the business behind the curtain. And then slowly after that, about 2 years after that, um, I became the ring announcer for TWE, and I'd ring announce a couple other places. But how it happened was, after knowing him so long, for those first few years, I texted him. I said, "Hey, man, do you need a ring announcer?" Because apparently something had happened that night. They didn't have a ring announcer, and I think they had posted on Facebook or something. And I hit him up and said, "Hey, man, do you need a ring announcer? I'd be glad to do it. I could learn. I'm a quick learner." And so I was trying to sell him on that and everything. And it come to find out, he said, "Yeah." And so I did it, and it was just something that kind of happened. So there was kind of some preparation and training as far as mentally goes. But no, I never really had any training physically other than watching, different announcers. Like I watched a lot of Bruce Buffer. I watched a lot of Justin Roberts from WWE. Man, I just sink my teeth into it, and it's kind of become a hobby of mine, and it's turned into something that I'm in love with, that I get to do every 2 weeks on a Saturday night.
You already mentioned some names, but do you have a specific role models or like a ring announcer in general that you idolize or look up to?
I really love Howard Finkel, and just all the things I've heard about Howard Finkel. Uh, it's all been very good. I've heard he's always been polite, very very well mannered, and very just wanting to help. And I look to him because really, whenever I was growing up, him, Tony Schimmel, Justin Roberts, those were my childhood guys that I watched, on the TV screen, WWE. And so I really drew from those three guys: Justin Roberts, Tony Schimmel, and Howard Finkel. So that I really looked to them, and of course, like I said, Bruce Buffer, just because even though UFC and WWE kind of gets mixed in that it's not really the same, but they're also not really different. Um, I thought it was very important to look outside of WWE, look outside of just pro wrestling, and his enthusiasm and his passion really struck me, and I was kind of trying to gain from all of those sources to kind of put together what I have now. I don't even know. I don't even know if it's any good. I don't pay attention to any of that. I have fun out there.
How much of an influence do people like SCI promoter Scott Hensley have on you, who is just like yourself, was active as an announcer during the SCI weekend as well?
Oh man, I'm telling you, Scott Hensley is another one of those guys that I got to see live and in person, because in my hometown of Saudi Daisy, Tennessee, where the Rumble was held, and probably is held, and this the whole Saudi Daisy thing scene with Scenic City and the Invitational and stuff, and the Invitational, the Rumble, the trios. I think they did trios there, if I'm not mistaken. But man, seeing Scott Hensley whenever I was real young at Saudi Daisy Middle School. This is before SCI. This is before all of that. It was the first show I ever seen Scott Hensley ring announced, and so seeing the progression of just over the years about how him being the first one I ever seen live to now being able to kind of say I've worked with him. I mean, I have worked with him at the Futures tournament twice. I believe I did it in 2020, and then I did it this past year. And man, he's had a really huge role in my announcing, because I don't really reach out to him as much as I should probably, but I believe it was a few months back I sent him a message and I said, "Hey man, is there anything that I can work on?" And he said, "You're doing great. Gave me some encouragement." And so really, if I'm telling the truth, I shouldn't be the one up there because I feel like I just shouldn't. I feel like there's so many more great announcers that I've met and that I've seen that should be up there that are in this area. Scott should definitely be up there in that ring, because he's just, in my opinion, the best on the indies that I've seen. Because literally everything he does is, I don't even think I've ever seen him get tripped up, and I trip up almost every show. I don't think I've ever seen Scott Hensley trip up, and I know I'm talking about him a lot, but you asked. I mean, so I'm going to answer. So that was just for me, the first one that I'd ever seen ring announced live, and he does give me a lot of inspiration.
How would you describe the local independent wrestling scene in the Chattanooga area, and how much of an influence did TW have on it since it was founded over 10 years ago?
So, in this area, I've always heard that Chattanooga is special for wrestling. Even hearing it up to like Cody Rhodes talk about his dad and Dusty Rhodes, and coming through Chattanooga and coming through, the small towns like this, as far as and even going out to Birmingham and all the hot spots for just Southern wrestling, and that was and that was one of the things that struck me. I was like, wow, Chattanooga is actually a pretty big deal when it comes to wrestling. And it's weird how you don't realize stuff until you're in it. So I'm in the bubble now, and so I'm starting to see it, because like I said, I'm only 21, so I don't really know a lot of history about pro wrestling with Chattanooga and just pro wrestling in general. But all I know is I'm a fan, and I know that there is a spirit of like old school style wrestling in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and seeing TWE be the nail it right here be the nail that's drove in Chattanooga, and the staple in Chattanooga for Chattanooga wrestling. It's a privilege. Sometimes I look back and I realize, man, I'm so lucky to be just a small part of what we're doing in Chattanooga. We're keeping Chattanooga alive for pro wrestling, and literally everyone I've heard that are of the older generations, they say, I remember watching Jackie Fargo and all the greats and just all those guys that you hear about, Terry Gordy in Chattanooga, um, just all of these guys that you hear about in Chattanooga, and then now we see the progression of it to see guys like Jaden Newman, see guys like Jamison Shook, see guys like Aaron Wade, Derek Neal. I mean, him and Derek Neal just come off the greatest probably rivalry in Chattanooga in a long time between him and Tank and between the Covenant of the Goat and the Deadwood Boys. I mean, it's been awesome. It's been awesome to witness Chattanooga wrestling alive and well.
When you look at your Instagram page, it says TW Chattanooga ring announcer, evangelist, and drummer. At first, this might seem like an unusual combination. Where would you see the similarities between being a ring announcer, an evangelist, and a drummer?
Okay, so it's very crazy to me. It's very odd, but I'm learning to grow accustomed to it. So I'll start with being a ring announcer. It's crazy how they all three correlate. Being a ring announcer, you have to hold a mic. Being an evangelist, you have to hold a mic. And being a drummer, you have to hold a set of sticks. And so you have what you have to hold, then you have what you have to do. So being on a stage, you're in a wrestling ring on a stage. Being behind a podium behind a pulpit, you're an evangelist, and then being behind a drum set, you're a drummer. So you see how they all correlate, and really those worlds, they I've accepted them that they just cross over for me. Being an evangelist and being within the church, Christian church. I'm a Christian, um, and I have my beliefs and stuff and my faith, and I think that's very important to me. And then being in the wrestling world, sometimes those two do not mix, and it's hard to mix them. But I've learned how to mix them because I I don't care where I'm at. I just want to be the same everywhere that I go. And being a Christian and being in the Christian faith, I've come to realize that I'm not perfect at all. So when I come into a locker room, I'm not perfect. You know what I mean? Whenever I'm playing drums, I'm not perfect on drums. So anything I do, whether it's evangelism, whether it's pro wrestling, or whether it's playing the drums, just trying to get a beat going, I I want to be the same in everything that I do. I want to treat people with kindness. I want to treat people with respect. I don't care what their nationality is. I don't care what their belief is, what their creed is. I've learned a long time ago that you have to respect everyone. It does not matter who they are. If you want to be a decent person, if you want to feel like a person at all, respect people. And so that's how I've learned to bring all those three things that probably shouldn't mix and bring them together.
You already talked about respect, and TW is a place where everyone's welcomed and where it is all about bringing people together and supporting each other. Especially given you being an evangelist and of Christian faith, as you just alluded to, is this something that makes TW a special place for you that's more than just a wrestling promotion?
Oh, 100%, 100%. TWE being TWE is a family. We're a family, and I know people probably hear that all the time about it could be any wrestling show. We're family back there. We're family, but really we are from the concession stand to the locker room all the way out in the parking lot. We're a family. It doesn't matter who you are. If you come and you buy a ticket and you experience a show, you're automatically TWE family. Now, of course, everybody that comes through those doors may not be. We've had some doozies, but we've had some people that uh, wanted to come in and get a little rowdy and stuff. But um, the majority of the people that you meet, I believe everyone has a little bit of good in them. The majority of people that you meet, especially at wrestling shows, are going to be awesome. They're going to be cool. And so the people that we meet at TWE that just come through that door, whether it can be a smile, whether it can be a high five, even hugs, man. It's just it helps me. I don't know how everybody else feels, but it helps me to see people who, come to wrestling show because I want to talk I want to just mention this that people deal with so many things. And whether it's, depression, whether it's some thoughts that maybe we don't want to think sometimes, that maybe we just find ourselves thinking them. Maybe if it's anxiety that people face or just, like past trauma, there's a lot of that people deal with that they don't really have a chance or they may not really have anybody to talk to about it. So whenever they can walk through those doors, and I'm speaking for myself as well because I was a fan first before I was anything. And so if they can just get through those doors, sit down for maybe a 2.5 hour show or a 2 hour show and just forget about everything. That's what matters. And that's what TWE is. It's people helping people.
Following up on that, you can absolutely say that in TWE, you feel like everyone can just be who he or she is, as you said, or who they are. The TWE community consists of people like who are involved in church like you, or who are representatives of the LGBTQ community. You have all kinds of ages, backgrounds, whatsoever, and just a safe space for everyone. Would you say that especially such a regional promotion as TWE can also be a place that strengthens like social cohesion or that strengthens like a social community?
Oh, 100%. 100%. It doesn't matter, it doesn't matter what you believe or how you think or what your views are, as long as it's not hurting anybody, I think. I think it's very healthy. And I think pro wrestling sometimes gets a bad rep because of some of the things that go on in it. But the things that happen at TWE, well, we want to impact people. We don't want to hurt people. We don't want to send people a bad message or send people a false narrative. But we really are true. We really are people that believe that we are impacting other people, and it doesn't matter what their beliefs are or what they choose to be or who they choose to love. Even the only thing that I'm called to do, just speaking for me specifically, the thing that I'm called to do, the thing that I'm called to, um, uh, the things I'm called to say, and the things that I'm called to show, is love. Is love. There should be no reason why I should beat people over the head, and try to give people a false narrative or anything bad. If we're gonna say we're gonna be something, let's be it. And I believe Jameson Shook um, made mention of this about Twitter. The first thing you see on Twitter, it's a pinned tweet, is Jaden making the announcement. We are for everybody, and I agree with that wholeheartedly. We're for everyone in this world. This world is for everyone, and so we are for everyone. And I believe that TWE's, even though we think we have maybe we do have a big impact. I don't know, but I think we play just a good part in making an impact in social different social communities.
TWE Crash Course 1 year anniversary special, you announced Will Steele, starting with his favorite color is tin, and then you continued to announce him in a way that reminded of like a poem. Is this something you practice multiple times before a show? And in general, I would like to know how long in advance before a show do you like prepare for announcing?
Okay, so uh, first and foremost, the Will Steele famous introduction does not belong to me. That to tell the truth, Jaden Jaden Newman and Jameson Shook and a few others came up with that. Um, we were trying to just figure out what Will. I'm maybe getting inside baseball here, but we were trying to figure out what Will should where he should reside from and what his stats should be. And I'm always looking for things to be, cool things. Of course, if the talent agrees. But we were trying to figure it out. We were racking our brains, and everybody was calling him the real deal, Will Steele. That's his. I think that was his original his original thing. But we were trying to figure it out, and they just kept naming off rhyming things. Like he lives inside of a windmill. He resides from the state of the Tar Heel. His favorite wrestler is Derek Neal. His favorite color is teal. Just different stupid things that. And so we came up with that, and I put it in the notes. And yeah, so far it's worked. We try to, I don't know, we changed it up once, and I think we're going to try to do that again, just to kind of give it some, diversity. And secondly, to answer your other question about how do I prepare, so my preparation pretty much looks like getting to the building the day of, and just looking at the card and getting things together. And normally, if there's matches that are already announced, I'll get a preconceived idea and I'll be able to plan accordingly. And sometimes, from just doing it for the past year, um, I'll have everybody's information stored in my notes. And so what I'll do is I'll pull from those notes over to the matches that they're going to have on that particular night, if that makes sense. Um, and so that's pretty much how I prepare. Now, some things go awry, some things change. I've had things change from one show to the next concerning people's information, and I'm always want to be open and respectful to their um, to their information that they want done. Now with ICW, and I got to announce ICW No Holds Barred twice for the pit vortex, and it was difficult because I don't really like to curse. I don't like to curse, and so it was very 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 hard, but we got through it. So
Wrestlers have told me before, or have told us before, how important they think good timekeepers and also ring announcers are. Do you feel like ring announcers get appreciated enough for the work that they do?
see, that's a good question, because I think everybody is equally as important, but I do say that there is room for a little bit more appreciation for ring announcers, and maybe I'm just looking at the wrong thing. Maybe I'm looking from a different perspective that isn't accurate. Maybe I'm wrong, but the way I see it, ring announcers, they don't get enough love because until you're in there and until you have the nervousness and the anxiety, especially whenever you mess something up, and God knows I do that all the time. And so it's it's very difficult. Um, and I would like to see some people that I know personally try it once. Just try it once, and tell me you don't get butterflies and nervous and stuff. And it's weird. I was thinking about this before we recorded, before we started recording. That's the thing about ring announcing for me is whenever I'm in the back and whenever the day of kind of I get nervous, especially nervous right before I go out because I'm like, God, how are these people going to look at me? How I don't. There's probably new faces. Yeah, we get all kinds of people from TWE. In TWE, our crowd's sometimes the same. Sometimes our crowd's people that's never been there. And so, right before we go out, I get so nervous, and I'm like, oh God, I'm checking. I check my phone over at least probably 12 times before I go out. And I'm like, what do I? He's like, have I got everything in the right place? Have I got everything in the right order? And then once I get out there and I get rolling, it's like, where'd my nerves go? And so that's really a huge thing for me about ring announcing, and yeah.
Do you think that ring announcers and the way that they announce certain wrestlers can also help them get the intended reaction from the audience? For example, I have the feeling that the way you announce him is also a part of why the entrances of Damian Bankston get the reactions that they do.
That's a very good observation. Um, and it's one that I've really thought about as well. Darian, Darian. If I could just speak on Darian for a second, Darian is connected, 100% connected with the TWE audience, and him winning the TWE Undisputed Championship. It was like it was like he made gold whenever he became the champion, and figuratively and literally, he made and received gold. I mean, because those people, I see little children just eat him up and love him, and he has so much charisma, and he's so friendly, and he's so nice, and he is truly our champion. He is our champion, and so I like to go at championship introductions a little bit differently. I like to have a little bit more enthusiasm. I like to tone it up a little bit. Sometimes I probably sound like a mess out there, but I try to tone it up for our champion because he deserves it. And not to say that anybody else doesn't deserve a great introduction. I try my best with every introduction to be proper and try to deliver it the best that I can. But there's just something about Darian Bingston's championship introductions. It's special to me because hearing that crowd before I even say his name, whenever I'm leading up into Darian Bingston, they go bananas. And it's nothing. It is nothing to do with me. It's all Darian and his charisma and his heart for TWE and the people.
We know this from wrestlers, promoters, referees, or even fans, but is there also a kind of community or kind of networking or even mentoring between fellow ring announcers?
Yes, there really is. Another shout out to an amazing guy, Carmen Michael. Carmen Michael. Those two, that name right there, we're going to be seeing on TV. I truly believe Carmen Michael, and I feel like commentary and ring announcing goes hand in hand, especially for him and especially for us at TWE. I consider TWE to be a 3-man announcing team. It's 2 commentators, whether it be Rob Weathers, whether it be Carmen Michael, and or a 3 or 4, really, a 3 or 4-man announcing team, and whether it be the mainstay, the man Mose, whether it doesn't matter who it is back there, they are just as important as my role. And I feel like for ring announcing and commentary, they just work together. And so about Carmen Michael, I believe if anybody networks, it's that guy. I mean, I know this is going to be out later on, but I seen he just got done with GCW, and I mean, he's already on his grind in 2024. And so I believe there is networking that can be done for ring announcers. And if you have to wonder anything about that, ask Carmen Michael. Because the reason I feel like I'm so like somebody else should be doing it at TWE like Carmen or like Scott Hensley. It's not to try to get pity or anything. It's the truth. Because people like Carmen and people like Mose, John Mose, that they network, they travel, they go. I'm just at TWE. Those guys are out making towns. Those guys are out running the roads and just trying to get their name in another promotion. And so I think networking is important, just as important for wrestlers, just as important for commentators / ring announcers.
You just talked about Scott Hensley, and alongside Scott Hensley, you were part of the Scenic City Invitational weekend, starting with announcing like the unofficial beginning of SCI weekend with TW Night Before, but also the SCI pre-show and especially Action Future Showcase. How was your experience, and what does it mean to you to be a part of SCI weekend?
You know, I look back on it, and sometimes it hits me. That was a huge deal. Seeing names on that card for just the beginning of that Thursday night, which was the night before at TWE. See it, it boggles my mind that I got to announce Timothy Thatcher. It just boggles my mind. A little small or a little country kid from Soddy Daisy, Tennessee, that doesn't really have a lick of knowledge about anything. I mean, I'm not technical. I'm not savvy. I got to announce Timothy Thatcher in our home place, in Jaden Newman's home place, because that was the man that was standing across the ring from him. And to have names like Adam Priest and Shazna McKenzie and just so many of those guys and even gals that stepped up that weekend, and then to go into the futures that I got to be a part of on that Saturday afternoon. It was just crazy because I wasn't even supposed to announce the futures. Uh, I received a text message and they said, "Hey, we want you to announce it. We have a guy that we have a gentleman from the Bald Monkeys Wrestling Podcast that wants to help out, and we want y'all to work together." Me and I can't think of his name. I'm so sorry, but me and him, we worked together on that show, and just the matches. I mean, that triple threat. I believe it's Cody Manhorn and I can't think of her name to save my life, but just the whole show, the future show was just so cool because I love seeing new talent. Or not really new talent. Those guys and gals were experienced, but just seeing them in the mix in that ring and seeing that whole weekend was just a blast. And I love SCI weekend and just getting to be just a part of it. It was really cool.
What I'd like to know is, do you have like a favorite or also multiple favorite wrestlers you like to announce for? Where we would say, okay, I especially like, for example, this introduction or this introduction.
Okay. I really do like I really do I like announcing Totally Shook as a tag team. I really like that because the energy those guys bring out is awesome. I mean, it is awesome. The fans love them. I love them. I consider them my friends. So to see them come out and to see just the reaction, and then to get to introduce them and just feel that crowd, as they're our TWE tag team champions. Just to experience that is cool. Another one that I really like, that I really love announcing is of course Darian Bingston, and of course even old Shug D, who really I'm not really keen on because of his attitude. But nevertheless, I have to do my job. But announcing him was fun because he always gets in my face and wants me to repeat that he was the number one entrant in the Scenic City Invitation 2023 Scenic City Invitational tournament. He's the journeyman. Just things like that. It makes the job interesting. It keeps you on your toes. And then not a guy that we get every now and then, Adam Priest. To get to announce him is very cool for me because I'm a huge Adam Priest fan. One of the things Adam loves to do, whether it's me, whether it's Scott, he likes to come in chewing his chewing gum, walking his walk, and slapping you on the tail. I don't know why he loves to do that, but he loves to do that. And so getting to be in there with him, and it's just fun. It's cool. I like it.
Do you also have a favorite match that you announced so far?
Oh, that's a hard one. There's so many. I would have to say my favorite match that I announced was probably, I believe it was the second show of 2023 on a Saturday night that we did. And I believe it was, or it might have been the first show. I'm sorry. I'm not really good with memories. Because sometimes after a while they all run together. just two that really stand out to me was seeing Jaden Newman and Derek Neal go almost, I believe it was 40 minutes. It was incredible. It was incredible to start the year off. These two athletes meeting. You have Jaden Newman, who's agile and got this new age mixed with old. Then you have Derek Neal, who's just old school and just wrestling, and it's just so like mesmerizing, and it's like seeing Terry Gordy wrestle if he was still with us, and getting to see Derek Neal versus Jaden Newman. That was really cool, seeing them go the distance and getting to be able to announce that, especially to a sold out crowd. I believe we were standing room only that night, and then getting to announce, which was really cool for me because it was the first time I'd ever done anything like this. Getting to announce the British rounds match between Daniel Makabe and Darian Bingston, and I believe that was at Red Bank Roulette 2023, and just going through the whole announcements of that match, because you had to, announce the times and stuff while the match was going on. And it was stressful because I had to know what to say, when to say it, and I had to announce things a certain way. And the match was just impeccable. It was an incredible match. I love watching Daniel Makabe. I love watching him. And then to see him in there with Darian, it was awesome. So getting to announce that match was pretty cool for me. And then, of course, Jaden Newman and Timothy Thatcher from the night before in 2023.
My last question before Morbo will talk to you about what is next for you is, do you also have a favorite show where you have been the ring announcer?
Favorite show? I would have to say it would have to be Red Bank Roulette, 2023 Red Bank Roulette. Because, and I'm hoping, I think we're doing it again this year. I believe that's in February, if I'm not mistaken. It's in February or March, I believe. And so Red Bank Roulette was really fun because we didn't know what we were going to see. The fans didn't know what they were going to see. It was completely random. And so that whole show, just getting to announce that, getting to sit beside Dylan Hells, whether it's for a wrestling match or a wrestling show, or whether it's just in a car, getting to sit with Dylan Hells is fun. And so that night was pretty cool for me. Red Bank Roulette 2023.
You are known as the voice of TWE, but do you also have ambitions to do ring announcing outside of TWE as well, for example, for other Southeast promotions or even in other regions of the US?
I'm telling you, I would love to do anything, really. I'd love to go everywhere if I could. Really, I'm having fun at TWE right now. And should the doors open for me to go a place like New South, or me to go to a place like Action Wrestling, if I get the chance and I get if I'm able, I would love to go anywhere in the Southeast, and just do my thing. But the thing is, we've got mainstays of ring announcers in different promotions, and so it's kind of hard to mix up ring announcers. Just from my view, I don't know. I could be wrong, like I'm saying, but just it's kind of hard to. I don't really would want to come in and take a, Of course, if somebody's sick or if somebody needs someone to fill in, I'd be glad to fill in, But I don't think I could ever replace a Scott Hensley. I don't think I could ever replace a Carmen Michael. You know what I mean? At their mainstay place. But I mean, one day it would be great to do that. Just kind of hold the mic for a different promotion. It'd be really cool. But my heart and soul is in TWE, and I'm really enjoying where I'm at because it kind of works out for my ministry as well, and being an evangelist and traveling a lot. I can kind of balance professional wrestling and the ministry, and I can do both.
Could you also imagine to be active in other roles in wrestling, for example, as a manager?
Oh, that'd be amazing. See, that's like I said, that's the first thing I've ever did, was I got to manage Jaden Newman, and that was really cool because it kind of just happened on the fly. and that's another story for another time, though. But I would love to do some managing in the future, maybe, or maybe turn into like a. I would really love to work backstage. I know I'm young. I don't really have a lot of experience, but I was a fan, and I still am a fan. And I believe sometimes, in most cases, more than others, wrestling fans know best. And if I could help out in any way, whether it's just to, you know, help somebody or give somebody advice or anything really backstage, I would really love to do. Um, but as far as managing, and I'd love to try my hand at commentary. I'd love to try my hand at that. I try to be a good talker. I try to be a good speaker. I'd love to try commentary, and of course, stay with ring announcing. So whatever, I'm open for whatever, really, as long as it's not wrestling, because I'm not cut out to do that. So
As far as ring announcing goes, are there certain goals you still want to achieve with TW, or also personally, like for example, announcing certain people or do certain shows in your venues or things like that? And also, what are the biggest goals you have already achieved in your announcing career?
there are a lot of things I really would like to do. Um, of course, getting the opportunity just to announce at TWE is a great opportunity in itself. So it's really a privilege every time I get to do it. And so the goals that I really have really aren't big goals. I honestly think they can be accomplished. That's how much I think, because of just how like popular TWE has grown in the past 10 years. And the way I see it, and the way probably the casual fan sees it, or the diehard fan sees it, we don't know what we can see. So I'm just as much in the woods as they are as far as what's going to happen. And so I try to imagine it, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Like for instance, I'd love to. This is a very specific one, but I'd love to announce Matt Tremont at TWE. I'd love to announce, uh, just really anybody that's made a name for themselves. It's really special to do that. It's really special to announce them. And then of course just our homegrown guys, to see them announce them in big matches. Maybe if a guy like Jameson Shook, or if a guy like Aaron Wade, or if a guy like Casey Owens, or one of the TWE, PC kids, if they step up and have a future title shot. Like I'm fixing, like tonight, I know this is going to be at a later date, but tonight I get to announce Big Dave against Josh Locke for the Gig City Championship tournament. I get to announce that tonight. Those two guys have worked their butt off, and to see them in that spotlight tonight is really cool, because somebody's leaving with a title. And so just goals like that are pretty cool for me. And then some past goals that I've already accomplished. Number one, I'll go back to Matt Tremont, getting to announce him and Tank at No Holds Barred in Chattanooga. I believe it was in March of 2023. That whole weekend was a fever dream for me. And looking back on it in the moment, I didn't really realize how big of a deal it was. But some things fell through with the past ring announcer, and they asked me if I could step in, and I said yes. I would love to do the Vortex on Friday, and then the Pit, the Vortex on Friday, and then do the Chains on Saturday. It was very cool to me. And then that Saturday night in the Chains, getting to announce Tank and Matt Tremont, it was just amazing. And then, of course, Timothy Thatcher again, getting to announce Timothy Thatcher. I've done some pretty amazing stuff already, and it's not even been it's not even been. It's been a year, but it hasn't even been a year and 2 months since I've started back with TWE.
Hey, Daniel. That's it. We're at the end of the interview. And as always, the stage is yours. You can plug and promote anything you want.
Okay, cool. Obviously want to promote TWE Barbed Wire Baptism. Is if it's not already up on demand, look for it. because it's going to be coming out. And if it is on demand, go watch it. Go watch it. Go look. Go. If you don't have IWTV, take the chance. Get IWTV. You're gonna love it. And watch Bar Baptism. And follow me on X at RDSimmons423, and just support independent professional wrestling and support pro wrestling in general. It seems like there's a lot of controversy over which side and what side and who we're going for and who we're against, and that's cool and all, but let's just support professional wrestling as a whole. And that's all I got.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for coming on the show. I think this was a wonderful interview. Both Sebastian and I are huge TWE fans, so it means a lot for you to come on the show, and we're looking forward to watch barbed wire baptism. Probably not tonight because it's a little bit late for us Germans. We're going to watch it tomorrow in the morning. But thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much, as always, to you, Morbo, and as always to you, Florian. And also, of course, thank you to you, Daniel, for taking the time to be our guest today. As Morbo already said, we are huge TWE fans. I've been there in person before. And best of luck, and I wish a great show to everyone we will involved in barbed wire baptism. And with this, thank you to our listeners, and I hope you will listen to us in the future again. Goodbye.